If you're a dad and you're on a weight loss journey, let me hit you with a number that most guys never even think about, and that is that if your body burns 2,000 calories and you're trying to lose weight by eating less, by eating 1,800, 1,700, 1,600, I would challenge you that you don't actually lose weight faster, but rather what you lose is you lose energy, you lose clarity, you lose focus, and eventually you're gonna lose consistency. And that's the real reason why most men fall off, because they start to rely on willpower. And in this video, I'm gonna break down a much better and a more simple way to think about your nutrition, and one that works with your life and not against it. And by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly my philosophy on how eating less will always turn into a willpower game that probably is gonna continue to fail you. I'm gonna simplify the whole calorie counting thing. I know that most men don't have time to do this or want to do it, but I'm gonna make it easy for you to actually understand and make it realistic. I'll show you how exercising more frequently, not longer, will actually help you as well. And ultimately, the thing that you're gonna be able to walk away with is figuring out what your actual baseline is and seeing how just moving 100 to 250 calories, not just with your nutrition, but with your movement, can actually help you week after week after week, help you lose the weight. But before we dive in, this is for dads. I'm a dad. I understand what it's like to have lots of responsibility, to have to be pulled in many different directions. But if you've tried dieting, if you've tried cutting your calories, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling foggy, if you're feeling like you don't have any energy, and you just keep falling off and you can't stay consistent anymore, you need to listen up, because this nutrition philosophy will show you how to make it much easier. Because what does most nutrition protocols tell you to do? They tell you to eat less. And when the weight stalls, they tell you to eat less again. And it just is this cycle of continuing to eat less and less and less to actually lose weight. And it turns into a willpower game, and it turns into you starving. But the real problem is the less that you eat over and over again, you're not just losing calories, you're actually losing energy, man. The workouts are doing, you feel like you don't have anything to give because you're hungry. So then that starts to get into your cravings, and then bada boom, bada bing, you're off to the races again because the cravings kicked in, because you felt like you hit your goal, you start negotiating with yourself, and then you shoot right back up. But the better way to start thinking about weight loss is actually energy balance. Let me write that out, energy balance. And what I'm talking about here is you have two choices. Whenever I'm looking at somebody's weight loss journey, you have two choices. We can either, which is what I prefer, we can get you to move more. I'm not saying to spend more time in the gym and that you have an hour and a half. I know that if you're a busy dad, you probably got about 35 to 45 minutes. Maybe if you're bougie, you got an hour. You can either move more or you can eat less. Those realistically are our two choices. Now let me explain the difference. I prefer this method over here compared to over here, because let's just do just some simple math. It'll be very simple. Let's say your baseline is 2,000 calories. In order for you to actually lose weight, you have to be in a 200 calorie deficit, right? This will equal 1,800. You will lose weight. Now, also, the reason why, and that's this option over here, I prefer this guy because same guy, baseline 2,000, but we increase your movement. And guess what happens when you improve your movement? When you start exercising more, you have better energy, you have better confidence, you have better feeling about your day, and you probably make better choices. But hear me out. So if we go to 2,200, still a negative 200 calorie deficit, but you got to eat the same, but you're still in a negative 200, this is a better way because it gives you life rather than takes away. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, what do I need to do to actually make this happen? I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every time I hear that, I gotta just challenge you. When you work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then sometimes on the weekends, I wanna challenge you to change it up, because when it's something that you do versus being a part of your daily lifestyle. So what I'm talking about is if we can get to a habit and make it a part of your day-to-day schedule and not just something that you do here, you might exercise for less, more frequently, compared to longer days. Because guess what happens when you exercise more frequently? It becomes more a part of your life. It becomes more consistent. You also get to have the benefits of what exercise does every day. It gives you energy. It helps you feel better. You make better nutrition choices, kind of like what I mentioned about earlier, compared to going and it feels like it's a chore. And although you do it, it's like once you get there, it's fine and you do it and you love it. But let's just make the workout smaller, do them more frequently. And I want you to think about it like a campfire. Think about your metabolism like a campfire. When you start to do that second option, if we have our fire going over here and you go the negative caloric deficit, deficit style, you're gonna start pulling fires out of the log. And the fire is still gonna burn, but the fire is slowly gonna dwindle out. It's slowly gonna burn. Compared to if you continue to add more fire to the metabolism, for lack of better words, meaning exercising more frequently, guess what happens? You get more muscle, you get more movement, you get more of it all. I mean, you're changing the behavior itself. And that's the way to begin to think about your nutrition. So I just want to give you a quick little idea to figure out kind of what your baseline is. Let's say your body weight is 250 pounds, all right? So that means that your baseline is probably somewhere, if you're sedentary, about 2,500. So we just talked about it. You gotta either eat over here or you gotta move up here. I prefer to move. This is just an estimate, right? The true way to find this out is if you are consistently, and you don't have to do this forever, but if you're struggling with your weight loss, this is what I help guys do in our program, is we gotta look at the numbers. I'm eating X and moving X, and we have to look at what the data says over time, and that's where we'll be able to collect real numbers and real data to see, do we need to move up or down on the calories, because this takes all the emotion out of it. When it comes to weight loss, we don't want to just rely on how we feel. Oh, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling stronger. My pants are getting a little bit better. That's fantastic. But also use the numbers, use the data, because numbers don't lie. If we go here and your numbers are still the same, we need to make some changes. And it's small changes, guys. It doesn't have to be this radical thing where you change all the things in your life. It's just small. It's becoming mindful. It's becoming aware of what little things you can do to tweak, to add to your lifestyle, because that's the only thing that's missing. It's just the behaviors. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. So let's say we haven't moved the needle. All we're looking for is, let's pretend we're trying to shave 150 to 250 calories. What this could look like could be one less snack, right? It could turn those pretzels, it could turn the chips, it could turn the one little thing to just removing that. It could be a slightly smaller portion, so you don't eat as much of the thing. If you're eating well, but you're still not losing weight, well, you might probably just eating too much of the thing that you enjoy eating. And if you feel like I'm hardly eating anything, well, then we need to move more. We need to exercise more. And another simple thing could be like eliminating your liquid calories. Like, where can you shave this right here to get less calories that are adding up? So that's what this looks like. And conversely, just something like adding 2,000 steps per day, more movement, which I'm a fan, just walking after a meal, getting a walking pad if you work from home, so you can increase your digestion, so you can help your digestive, quite frankly, just walking after a meal will help. If you can increase your step count, this will probably give you about 100 calorie bonus just by walking more. So that's kind of an idea of what you can look at for comparison to the two. That's not adding a lot more workout time. It's just moving and being intentional. As I've said before, the ABC framework, anchor, behavior, change. Find the behavior that you want to change, whether it's the walking, whether it's the cutting, align with something that you're already doing in your life, whatever that anchor is. And just to do a little bit of math, let's just pretend you just cut out that one snack. Let's just pretend you removed some of the peanut butter. Pretend you swapped out the milk for the water and you found a way to get 250 calorie deficit, whether it was from movement or whether it was from pulling away from nutrition. Well, this times 7 equals, what's the math on that? 1750, like the Rain Man over here. 1750 over 30 days, that is, whatever that is, it's about 2 pounds. Let me do some math real quick. That is 7,500 calories. That's gonna be about 2-ish pounds. And you're thinking, oh, well, that's not very much. Small changes, did we just change one thing? 2 pounds is on the bottom half of what I expect out of my clients. I want a 1/2 pound to 2 pounds per week. Because if it's not that much, then why isn't it happening? Why isn't it that we're moving consistently? Because guess what? If you move and you cut just that little bit, or if you went to a higher deficit, you can see the results. But let's just stay with me for now. 2 pounds over 6 months is 12. Over a year is 24 pounds, and you learned how to keep it off without having to suffer, without having to starve yourself. Just small awareness and small consistency. So if you cut here and you did the movement, heck, double those numbers. That's 50 pounds in a year. That's 25 pounds in 6 months. Just some small awareness, a small change, not a super strict diet plan. just for the sake of education, let's talk about ways that you can increase your metabolic rate. So let's pretend if your metabolic rate was 2,000 and you're saying, Kev, I'm hardly eating anything. In order for me to actually lose weight, I have to eat 1,100 calories. You know, that means that let's just pretend that your metabolism is 1,200, you know, because if you're eating 2,000 and you ate this and you didn't start losing weight until you're way down here, well, then we need to get this puppy up. We need to get your metabolism up. So one of the ways that we can do that is by strength training, is by building muscles. Building muscles. We all want to have muscles. We need to talk about sleep. We need to sleep better. We need to prioritize sleep. You need to put that dang phone in a little box called a no phone zone. Get it out of your room. No negotiating. It's messing with your sleep. Steps. There is a thing called NEAT. You should do a small little research, or maybe I'll just make a video about it. Basically, this just improves the amount of calories you burn throughout the day. So by increasing your movement, it's going to improve your caloric burn. Just move. I hear this a lot, but sleep and stress, people have a difficult time managing. But I would challenge you, I've got some very good detailed workbooks and some curriculum within the course, but stress, if you can handle your sleep, you'll probably do a little bit better here if you're combining the movement, because most people don't say yes to themselves enough, so they don't give to themselves. But if you, goes back to the beginning, if you exercise, you're gonna feel better. It's gonna reduce stress. It's a good form of stress. Stress is about balance. Weight loss is about balance. It's about energy balance. So if we can get these things fixed, if you can work out, if you can put the phone away, it's probably gonna help your stress. If you can fix your stress, if you can reduce your stress, it's going to help with some of the nuances of hormones and insulin and stuff like that, just because you're resting and you're not always elevated. You're not always stressed out, because your body, quite frankly, doesn't know the difference between physical, mental, and emotional stress. If you're full on all three, your body's just revved up. You don't ever get to let the shoulders down. You got to down regulate. But this is why having eyes on your situation can help you, because I had a client, Ben, who was losing weight. His body was changing and he was moving in the right direction, but he kept telling me, man, I'm starving. Man, it's beginning to be willpower. Man, I'm starting to get a little bit angry, because he was going here, here, and here, and here on his calories. He was going so low, like we just talked about. But he's been very consistent with his exercise. He had also been very consistent with his nutrition, which is why at this point he's now lost 50 pounds. But what we had to look at was the willpower was getting into him. He was getting hangry. It was affecting his relationship. So we increased his calories, which he was hesitant to, but he had a little faith in old Papa Bear over here. And we increased his calories. Well, we increased his movement and his calories, and I'm pretty confident, I remember this conversation, the dude dropped like 4 pounds the next week by eating more. So from that point, he was sold, and now he's down 50 pounds total. I think that was like 6 months ago. He was like down 25 pounds. He's consistently been losing like a pound or 2 a week. He's on the right path. Keep it up, Ben. But before I move on, and I'm just about wrapped up here, I want you to notice that, like, probably listen to that again. We increased his calories and increased his movement, and then he lost 4 pounds. So if you're one of these guys where you're just having to eat less to lose weight, you're going to run into a willpower problem. And that's why you're probably going to get frustrated. And that's why you always bounce back with the weight, because it turns into willpower and you feel like you've hit your goal, and then you start negotiating, and then you go back up, and then you just keep losing the 50 pounds over and over and again. And you don't want to do that anymore, do you? So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you found this video helpful and you are a dad and you are on a weight loss journey, at the very least, my brother, you can smash that little subscribe button, that little red button down over there in the corner, wherever it is. Knock that little bell. Leave a comment on what is most helpful for you, what kind of shines some light for you. And then if you want more eyeballs on your situation, so you can see results like Ben, so you can see results like Steven, Rob, Christian, you know what to do. Check out the description down below. I'll get some eyeballs on you, and I'll see if I can help you out.